Well, it seems the cat is out of the bag. Jaron Boots Ennis gets his next assignment, and it's definitely not a fight that you could say you wanted. Make sure you guys follow me at BOXINGEGO1 on Instagram. This is my Instagram, best in the business, and it's not even close. The cat is out of the bag. Jaron Boots Ennis, welterweight champion. He will defend his IBF title against a guy he already fought, Jaron Chukhadzhian. Chukhadzhian, however you say his name, in Philly this October. Boom. It says 2 kings. Now, they try to spice it up. This is the actual Matchroom post. Try to spice it up by putting Bam Rodriguez in there with Guevara. This is going to be another homecoming fight, November 9th for Jaron Boots Ennis. Pretty much at the same Wells Fargo Center, the same arena, I believe, that his last fight took place with David Avocado, right? And the reality is this just is not good. No bueno from me. Bam Rodriguez is a good fighter. He showed you skill in the Estrada fight, but I don't really know too much about his opponent. And then, of course, we've already seen Jaron Ennis fight this dude, Jaron Chukhadzhian, and it was truly a lackluster fight. So what are you going to do now to amplify that message? And I feared this for Jaron Ennis, and unfortunately, your boy Ego was right yet again. Ego Stradamus strikes again. You guys said earn with Hearn. Jaron Boots Ennis was going to get all these wonderful fights and activity. And I told you, the thing is this, I didn't doubt that Eddie Hearn could provide him activity. I asked you a question. I said, what star in America has Eddie Hearn ever produced? That was my question. Activity is fine, but what about relevancy? Because yes, I want to see a fighter active in general, but a person with the talent of Boots, which I've always praised on my channel, you want to see him fight somebody more than the guy that he just fought last year in 2023 on Tank's undercard on PBC. And to be honest, the level of fights have not improved for Jaron Boots Ennis. You guys said teaming up with Turkey and Riyadh Season and Eddie Hearn and DAZN would lead to activity and be a good career move, but he's literally fighting a guy in Karen that he already fought on Tank's undercard, as I just mentioned, last year. So the competition hasn't elevated. These aren't really David Avocado, Jaron Chukhadzhian part 2. Again, that last opponent, or this upcoming opponent, is literally someone he fought on a PBC card. So the quality, I've always been a quality over quantity type of person, and you can't say he's ascended and is getting closer to pay-per-view stardom or anything, or the fights have significantly improved. These are really no better than the fights he had with PBC or Showtime. But you guys said Eddie Hearn was going to be able to pull strings, and now he's fighting another Karen. Now, the other thing is, Jaron Boots Ennis, his best win, in my opinion, is Roman Villa, who just got destroyed on Canelo's undercard and knocked out by pretty much an unknown person, an unknown force in the sport of boxing. So Jaron's best win did not really age great. Now, you could make the argument that Roman Villa, the punishment he took in the Boots fight, maybe he's not the same fighter anymore. But ultimately, we didn't know too much outside of the Rashidi Speedy Ellis fight about Roman Villa. So Boots' best win just doesn't age well, we'll say. And then now he's back to fighting Karens and David Avocados. And here's the thing, Eddie Hearn is seemingly running out of ideas. So this is a unpopular fight, right? Where it's going to be hard to sell. So let's just stick Jaron Boots Ennis in Philly because he drew a crowd, because they don't really get that many fights out there. So let's just stick him where he's from, and that'll do the trick. So you're going to burn out Philly and then just keep giving them Boots versus lackluster options. But here's the thing. This is not how you make a star here in America, because in America, Philly is already supportive of Jaron Ennis. And depending on the location, they'll probably travel for Jaron Ennis. Like if Jaron Ennis, when he went and fought on the Tank undercard in DC, when he fights in New York, Philly, New York, that's an hour and a half drive or whatever. So it's reasonable. Just like prime Danny Garcia, people were checking him out versus Zab Judah at the Barclays. So to be honest, this is not a good way, in my opinion, to promote someone talented like Boots Ennis, to just keep shoving him where he already has popularity and where he already has an audience in Philly, and just stick his fights in Philly, because he doesn't need to grow an audience in Philly because he already has that on lock. It's similar to, and this is what we see with black fighters, particularly in the sport of boxing, that aren't with PBC. You have these other promoters and they'll have a talented black fighter like a Terrence Crawford, and Top Rank's best idea for him is, let's just shove him in Nebraska, particularly Omaha, where he's from, because we could do the best gate there. Or when Top Rank had Shakur Stevenson, let's just keep putting him in Newark. That's what they did for his last fight, right? Same thing with Eddie Hearn. Let's just keep putting Boots in Philly because that's his highest chance of a sell, you know, where he's from, and they liked the numbers last time. But I feel you don't, in boxing, that's not how a star is made. Like, look at other black fighters that came before Jaron Ennis that were with PBC. The star build was, let's say, Errol Spence. He was a unified champion in the same division. They took him to Sheffield, England, where he had a rooting crowd against him, 20,000 people against him to fight. So basically, realistically, Kell Brook and the chocolate right hand brownie, right? So that gives him exposure, and maybe he can pick up some UK fans when he stopped Kell Brook violently. Or you put him with Sean Porter, a great unification, and you put him in Los Angeles. I know because I was at that fight, right? Mikey Garcia, yes, that fight took place. I was at that fight too. Errol Spence, Mikey, that took place in Texas, but it made sense because they had like almost 50,000 people there. These are lackluster fights, and you're just shoving them in Philly because you don't know how to market Boots. And you know, if you took this to New York probably, or California, Arizona, Vegas, then it would definitely flop even more. So I guess they're just going to burn out Philly and, you know, put all these fights that people aren't really requesting. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm going to give y'all half a bar. There's people that are going to be like, oh, it's just mandatory. Man, stop it. Eddie Hearn's been in the game, and we all know when Canelo's mandatory is Jermall Charlo at 160 or David Benavidez or David Morrell, you see how Canelo keeps finding a way to skirt around the issue and not fight David Benavidez. So these promoters, these fighters, if they really had something going on, like a Canelo, like better options where they can make a lot of money, then they'll find ways around the mandatory. Stop playing with me. I've been in the game far too long for you to play in my face. No Diddy, right? So we all know that the reality is, at the end of the day, if Eddie Hearn had another option for Jaron Boots Ennis that made more sense that he wanted to do, then he would find a way around the mandatory. Or even in situations where you see guys who are willing to relinquish their belts, because the belts really don't matter if you're a star, period. And people get mad when I say that, but good, don't watch me. I'm telling you what it is. If you're Gervonta Davis, you're not going to be beholden to a belt. If you're Canelo Alvarez, like Canelo Alvarez had a mandatory of William Skull. Did he fight him? Absolutely not. He's like, I ain't fighting him next. I'm fighting who I want to fight. And he fought Berlanga. It did a $17 million gate, respectable pay-per-views in this generation, etc. But it's sad because for Boots, this is the level of opposition he's getting. And there's people that are affiliated with DAZN, which it could require a move up, but there's some better fight for him. Crawford, Virgil Ortiz, Boachuk, Madrimov. Again, it might require some flexibility, but you got to do what you got to do when you have a talent to not just keep putting him in with these fights that just really. The Karen fight was truly, as a Boots fan, the Karen fight was a pretty hard watch, and I felt like that style, a guy in kind of survival mode, moving a lot, was definitely not the right style for Boots. And then coming off even the David Avocado fight, this could be another setback type of fight for Boots, because let's be real, Terrence Crawford, he obliterated Avocado in ring versus Jaron Ennis. I felt it was a bit anticlimactic because he just couldn't come out and how it played out. You know what I mean? So we'll see how this looks. But if it looks like the first fight, this doesn't help Jaron's star power if you just go the distance and it's another fight that's not scintillating. So that's the danger and the flip side with putting Boots in Philly, is you don't want to tarnish his name in Philly or put on events that are lacking and don't give the Philly fans what they came for and what they want, because that could be discouraging too. Like, put it this way, if the fight looks like the first fight on the Tank card in Philly though, then I don't think the Philly fans would be like thrilled with the event, because it wasn't getting to see a guy who has knockout power get the knockout. So Boots really got to knock out Karen as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I don't really fancy this fight. I'm not a fan of it. Let me know what you got.